Welcome, welcome on in to the latest episode of the Off Air Podcast. Chris Thomas joined, as always, by the head honcho, Mike Conti. And Mike, a very different tone to this episode than the last one. We're going to
Look, I'm even wearing my Hawk shirt. I'm
yeah,
even wearing my Hawk shirt. So
the mirror thing when you're pointing in
yeah.
sorts of different directions. I'll never
That's why I'm on radio, not television.
I have no aspirations to ever be an on-air TV personality. I don't understand the mechanics of it. I sweat too much. I want no part of it. So I'm not worried about that. But something I do want to talk to you about is our station, in my opinion, handling a situation that happened on the air yesterday the best possible way by all parties involved. So we're going to start with a little pat on the back for our colleagues at 92.9 The Game. So if you missed what happened yesterday, Falcons GM Terry Fontenot was scheduled to appear on the Steakhouse, which airs from 9 to 11. He was scheduled to appear during the last segment of the show at 10:40, and they were going to have a nice little chat from the Combine about the season and the draft and all that good stuff. Well, life happens, as they say, and Terry's schedule was running a little bit behind, and there was some mix-ups regarding his schedule for the day. So Steak and Sandra were unable to interview him, and thus Andy and Randy got the benefit of that, and with very, very short notice, had him on in the second segment of their show. Before we talk about the actual interview, I think the first kudos goes out to Steak and his show for the way that they handled the situation, because when you get a big guest like that and you pump it and you promote it, it's great not only for the station, but for your individual show. And to not have it work out is a disappointment, especially when it's something beyond your control. But I thought the way that they approached it on the air and off the air, everyone did about as good of a job as possible.
Totally agree. And, I think it's a real tribute to Steak and Sandy for being understanding. It was a situation that was completely out of Terry Fontenot's control. It was out of the Falcons' control. It was out of Bo Morgan's control. Bo was kind of booking all of it. Steak and Sandra, rolled with the punches. They were pros about it. Always appreciate that. And then, honestly, for Andy and Randy and Bo Johnson, their producer, what a tribute to them. They're preparing for 24 hours. They're preparing a show. They have an idea of what they're going to talk about. They don't know that they're going to be interviewing the general manager of the Falcons until quite the last minute. And I think it just speaks to the level of engagement and professionalism on Andy and Randy's part that they were able to, on the fly, I think, conduct a very, very intelligent, informative interview with Terry Fontenot. Because they were prepared, they followed the Falcons closely. That's one thing I love about all of our hosts here is that, we don't have one host who they know a lot about the Braves, but not so much about football. And we have another host who's like an expert on Hawks, but they don't know much about baseball. No, everyone here is really well-rounded. And I think Andy and Randy demonstrated that on very short notice. They still know enough about this team and follow the developments around the team of the league close enough where they can, on the fly, make an adjustment and come up with some great content. Really appreciate about that. Really appreciate that about them. They were just total pros about it. And like you said, Chris, we rolled with the punches. I was in a meeting. With my boss. So I missed all the fun. I got out of the meeting and I looked at my phone and I saw what had happened. So that's another thing, too. Bo Morgan, who produces along with you on Dukes and Bell, is also our assistant brand manager. And what I love about Bo is when I'm indisposed, he picks up the baton. And it's seamless.
Gladly. He gladly picks up that baton.
No, he does a good job. Well, look,
that's my guy. I'm allowed to rib him.
Of course. Look, I have to travel a lot with Atlanta United. So I'm out of the building a lot. I'm in a lot of meetings as brand manager. A lot of the meetings have nothing to do with the radio station. So I have to be in and out a lot. And when I'm out, I need to know that there's someone who can pick up the phone and help me if I'm out of pocket. And Bo is that guy. And it's funny, we kind of debriefed about it after it all unfolded yesterday. And, I noticed I had a missed call from Bo on my phone, and Bo told me, I tried to call you, but to be honest with you, I didn't really think I needed to. I said, you know what? I agree. You don't really need to call me because I know that you think like I think and that you're going to execute the plan the same way I would. I forget who said this a couple weeks ago. We got a great email from our format captain, Spike Askin, who's the brand manager up at WFAN in New York. And Spike is such a great resource for all of us on the local level as brand managers. He gives us a lot of great advice, a lot of great guidance. He sent us an email. He was watching, I don't know if it was like a motivational speech or maybe it was a podcast. I don't know. But the speaker talked about how when he hires someone, he spends a lot of time training that person to think the same way that he can think. So he doesn't have to like hover and not trust that he's going to do things the right way. And that gives him the ability, the speaker, the ability to go out and do other things. And Bo helps me go out and do other things because he thinks the way I think. So all around, kudos to everyone. 5 stars. Great job. Very proud of everyone. And we ended up getting a pretty good interview out of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things you said there is about the hosts constantly challenging themselves and making themselves better by being well versed on different topics. And I'm taking a note from that page as well. This weekend, I even just got off the text message thread with our buddy Jason Longshore.
Yeah.
I'll be having him on my show on Saturday. So I'm doing my homework on Atlanta United, something that when I came to Atlanta a couple years ago, I had never talked, watched, discussed, to be honest, 1 minute of MLS. Got to a new city where MLS is just as big of a sport as any of the other sports in town. So it was up to me over the last couple of years to get my MLS bona fides up. I've been to a bunch of games now, familiarized myself with the players involved and getting a great opportunity every week to speak to a guy like Darren Eales on the phone that we would chat, for a few minutes before and after interviews. And now I'm at a point in my career where I feel like as long as I'm keeping up with it, I'm comfortable talking about it. Do I know the X's and O's and the ins and outs like somebody like you who calls the game? No, but through homework and through research, I've made myself a more well-rounded sports talk personality and producer by, learning the ropes.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do. I mean, I think there's this perception, and unfortunately, I hear it a lot from people who try to get jobs here who aren't necessarily in broadcasting but think it's an easy transition. I don't think people realize the amount of research, analysis, time that we have to spend watching games, time that we have to spend just talking to people, whether they be coaches or team staffers or in some cases players. There's a lot of work that we have to put in before we even crack the microphone in order to sound somewhat well-informed and somewhat intelligent about what we're going to talk about. I think there's this perception that it's not on the part of everyone, but I think some people think like, oh yeah, I always talk sports at the family picnic with my brother and my uncle, and they think I'm the smartest guy in the room. I can do sports talk radio, and unfortunately, it's not that easy. Maybe we make it look easy. I don't know, but it's not that easy. But Chris, I think you're a really great example of someone who, you're getting an opportunity to host. You've really embraced that opportunity because I know you like doing it, and now you're doing the amount of work you have to do to have an intelligent and informative show. Probably for every hour of show content you produce, you probably have to prepare 2 or 3 additional hours.
Yep.
It's like, what did Mickey tell Rocky? For a 80-minute fight, you have to train for 80 million seconds or something like that.
Yep.
For a 3-hour show, you probably need to prepare for 3 times that many hours. I know when I do a soccer game, soccer game's 90 minutes. I probably spend 8 or 9 hours preparing for that game.
Well, you just got to learn how to pronounce the names of the players in general first and foremost before you even. Yeah.
But what the problem is, I do all this prep, and I use maybe like 1% of it.
But you know what? If the opposite were true, you would be in the biggest hole you could ever imagine. There's nothing.
You are correct, my friend. You are correct. There's no worse feeling as a broadcaster. And I've been in this industry for 26 years now. There is no worse feeling than being in front of a camera or behind a microphone unprepared. The worst feeling in the world. And
anxiety that comes over you, the sweat starts to drip down your neck, and you just feel like you're in a hole.
Yeah, and like when I was a kid getting started in this at like age 16, 17, I was like, oh yeah, I was like the guy who said, yeah, I'm the smartest guy in my family picnic. Like, oh yeah, I got this. This is easy. I'm a natural. No, you aren't.
No.
And I learned that really, really quickly. And now I really take a lot of pride in the amount of time that I spend in my preparation. But we all do. I mean, the best shows on radio are hosted by the people who are the most prepared.
Absolutely. And for anyone out there who thinks it's easy, I challenge you to get in front of a microphone, talk for 14 minutes straight, giving an opening monologue. It's just you and a microphone and your thoughts.
And you have to be entertaining, informative, and funny.
Right. All at the same time. Well,
can't just ramble. You got to be entertaining, informative, and funny.
It can't just be stream of consciousness, because that sounds like crap over the air.
Right.
All right. Something that may or may not sound and look like crap, Mike. We've had about a week of it now. These new rules for Major League Baseball are in place. We're watching them. The Braves were at the center of attention. The first or second game they played of spring training, where they had a batter that was up and ended the game in a 6-6 tie with bases loaded and 2 outs and a runner at the plate because he didn't get set quick enough. So what have you seen so far from these new rules? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you love them? Where are we at?
No, I love them. I heard the stat. I think it was Grant McCauley who said it on the morning show today. Games have sped up on average by like 28 minutes per game.
Wow. Okay.
Love that.
Yep.
Love it. Yes. More, please, of that. I have said seasons are too long. Games are too long. You know, and honestly, like, let's go back to soccer for a second. This is one thing that I think soccer has gotten exactly right. You know, when you go to a soccer match, it's going to take 2 hours. There's going to be a 15-minute halftime. That's the only time the action stops. It's like a movie.
Yep.
The best movies are no longer or no shorter than an hour and 45 minutes. Anything more than that, it's too long. Anything less than that, it's too short. You feel shortchanged. 2 hours for a soccer match with no stop in the action. That is the sweet spot. So for baseball, and look, I'll say this for basketball too. I think a 2.5-hour NBA game is too long. The league needs to find ways, and they've tried with some of the new timeout rules and everything. They've tried to speed the games up a little. The NBA's got to find a way to get games to 2 hours.
Those commercial breaks are milked in. That's the problem.
That's right. But the other things that, quite frankly, slow the game down are fouls.
Yep.
And I think the league probably needs to take a broader look at, look, basketball is a contact sport. There's freedom of movement. Let the guys play. Like last night, the first quarter of the Hawks-Wizards game, only 1 foul was called. It's a great quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Teams were getting after it on defense. You know, there were long stretches without whistles where the momentum kind of ebbed and flowed. It was great. It was uninterrupted. And I guess the point I'm trying to get back to here with you know, the pitch clock and the hitter's clock and everything like that, anything you can do to proactively speed up the game and also create chances for more offense, which is honestly, I think, what people want to see when they come to the ballpark.
Yep.
There might be some baseball purists who really want to see a pitcher's duel. But, you know, for those who really, really, you know, are just kind of casually coming to the ballpark wanting to be entertained, they want to see a fast-moving offensive game. I think this is a step in the right direction. Now, I think Major League Baseball, the next thing they have to do is go from 160 games to 140. But that is a discussion for another time.
or maybe even 120. The one thing that I think growing up in New York, where I did the heyday of the Yankees and Red Sox, the one problem with the rivalry, as much as I loved it and as much fun as it was and shaped my childhood sports fandom, was that, Mike, the games were like 4 hours and 15 minutes long every single time, especially in the postseason, because when things would get tight, those games would get to an absolute screeching halt. I remember one of those in the 2004 ALCS. I think one of those games was like 4.5 hours long because the starting pitcher, I think it was Andy Pettit for the Yankees, got rocked, and they brought in every reliever that they had. So every single inning there was a pitching change, which led to another commercial break in the middle. I mean, it was just too much. And
can I interject something though? I think it's a little different in the playoffs. I really do, because there's so much tension, like this pitch by pitch tension that goes with a playoff game. But man, when it's August and it's game 110, between the Brewers and the Cardinals, you're manufacturing that tension. You're manufacturing that. Like, a lot of people hated the runner on second to begin extra innings in the regular season. I love that. Like, remember the Marlins and the Mets a couple years ago? They played like a 22-inning game or something like that.
Yep.
Was anyone talking about how great that was?
No,
it was boring.
You had catchers pitching for like the last 3 innings.
The pitchers playing left field, and it blew both teams up for a week. I am okay. I know baseball is a very nostalgic sport. We're very traditional about it. I get it, but it is okay to evolve with the times. And look, quite frankly, Chris, Lou Holtz gives motivational speeches a lot. He talks about how people never like change.
Yep.
People never want to change because they get comfortable. Do you remember you might have been a little bit young, but back in 1994, maybe it was 95, when baseball went to 3 divisions. Okay, you don't remember this, but baseball went to 3 divisions and had the wild card and went to interleague play shortly thereafter. Bob Costas was talking about what just a horrible thing this was. A complete disgrace to the tradition of the game and how it was going to affect his enjoyment of baseball. How long did that really last?
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. You're maybe a little older for this one. I actually remember, Chris, when TV networks started using the yellow first down line in football games. I'm not joking. There were a subset of fans, some of whom were my friends, who hated the yellow first down line because they said it took the fun out of guessing whether or not a first down was made.
Okay.
And that it would affect their enjoyment of the game. Well, that didn't last very long either. But again, it's kind of the natural reaction to change. We hate all kinds of change. Sometimes change can be really good. I think for baseball, it's going to be really, really good.
I agree. 100%. Thumbs up. More rule changes. Keep them coming. All right, let's finish off on a fun one here. One of the game's great stars in the NBA is breaking out into the mainstream media world a little bit. First, he had a movie made about him and his journey. Now he's doing a late-night talk show circuit. Giannis Antetokounmpo was breaking out, having a little bit of a star turn. And he went on The Daily Show with host Hassan Minhaj, who I think is doing a great job after Trevor Noah left his post. And
tough job. Big shoes to fill.
Yes. And he was asked to read some cue cards on the show about some of the great rivalries going on in the NBA with his fellow stars.
You keep joining super teams to win an NBA title. How about we work out together sometime so I can teach you how to carry your own team? Oh!
And he there was talking about Kevin Durant, who is now, of course, a Phoenix Sun, making his debut this evening, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, that's right. Giannis is, from what I understand, people around the Milwaukee Bucks say Giannis is a really good dude, a really funny guy. I respect him a ton as a player. I wish him the best. in his TV pursuits and his crossover pursuits. I hope it works out a little bit better than Kazam worked out for Shaquille.
Oh my gosh, that's a childhood flashback you just brought me.
Maybe works out a little bit better than Thunderstruck worked out for Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Space Jam was great, the first one for MJ. Oh, Mike, don't do this to me.
Okay, no.
Don't do it.
Well, wait a minute.
All right.
Let me finish, Skip. Space Jam was a good movie. All right. Space Jam 2, enjoyed it as well. Do you credit Michael Jordan for the success of Space Jam, or do you credit maybe Bugs Bunny and all the professional actors for the validity of Space Jam?
Love you calling Bugs Bunny a professional actor, by the way.
He is.
That's great.
He's got a much better resume than I do.
I will submit to you this. It is a little bit of a nostalgia play.
Sure.
I was like 7 years old when it came out. I was just getting into sports. I was just finding out that Michael Jordan was the coolest guy in the world.
Yep.
So worlds colliding at that time. Obviously loved the Looney Tunes. And I will say, to be fair, going back and watching some other sports movies that are connected the same way to a different generation, I don't find myself liking them as much as other people do that were in the same position as me, growing up with movies like Space Jam and The Sandlot and Little Giants. There are movies of a different era that I don't really necessarily resonate with. So for me, a movie like Raging Bull, for example,
okay,
I get it. I get why people like it. It just doesn't, people talk about it with such reverence.
Yep.
And for me, it doesn't hit the same way. So I understand Space Jam not hitting the same way for you.
Forrest Gump is one of those movies for me.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, and again, it's not a bad movie.
That's a hot take right there.
Well, again, it's not a bad movie. Perfectly Come on, Skip. It's a perfectly enjoyable movie, but it's also kind of trash at the same time because there's just no realistic way that story arc could be possible.
No, but that's half the fun of it. You go on this wacky, whimsical journey with this guy who lives a crazy, charmed life, and he doesn't even realize it. And you, the audience, you're the inside joke. It's the whole movie is that you are the person that gets it, and the main character doesn't get it.
It's a personal taste thing for me, but I need to believe what I'm seeing. I need to believe what I'm seeing. Look. This is a me thing, okay? Like I'm going to own it. I understand that this does not apply to everyone. It might not apply, in fact, to anyone other than me. There needs to be even if it's fictional, there needs to be a certain element of believability to it. Now, granted, and I'll be honest, this is why I'm not really into science fiction. I'm not really into like the whole Game of Thrones thing and everything like that because I don't believe in dragons. I mean, I enjoy fiction that's believable to me, like The Sopranos, very believable to me.
Sure. Succession,
very, very believable.
Billions,
even a movie, Billions. Well, yeah, for the most part, Billions I think got a little off track.
I agree.
I agree. Billions was great, but even like. I thought I had an outstanding example of something that was fiction, but still a little bit out there, and I can't remember it. And I guess
because your hot takes are melting the screen right now.
Probably. Well, geez, I mean, Chris, you know all the phone calls and all the meetings I've had over the last couple of days. This is like 30 minutes of escapism for me, but I sometimes I still have like urgent thoughts running through my head.